Hi, I'm Lilac. You might know me from my clips in aimmag, my quite mid montages, or, as AOD said, you're the one that types in Voltaic General, right? I'm a Masters Overwatch player with about 2k hours and have reached the amazing rank of Voltaic Master, which means I'm the best aimer in the world, and you must agree with my opinions. Today, I will be going over the Keychron M4. As a Viper Mini diehard with 16 by 8cm hands, will this mouse finally be able to convert me away from a 4-year-old budget mouse with LOD issues and a sensor that was shit on launch? Let's find out. In the box there is the mouse, the dongle, and the extension cable. Not even a spare pair of skates. I don't mind because I'm just going to use some nice third-party ones, but it is worth knowing, especially if you're using something like glass, which will just eat the skates. The sensor performance is essentially flawless. It's got a 3395 and I have had no issues with tracking and it feels fine. The thing is, I can say basically the same thing about my Viper Mini and Extrafire MC1 using a 3360 and a 3370 respectively. It's not a high polling rate, which the M4 is capable of, but it's a 1K mouse that's as good as any other 1K mouse. The battery life on this mouse is incredible. Out of the box, it took 6 days before the mouse told me it was low battery, and that's while I was using it 8 hours plus every day due to my mental illness. This is all on 1K hertz, so 4K will be worse, but still, a very strong performance. This mouse is tiny. It's hard to understand how small it actually is unless you use it or another fingertip mouse. It's also got pretty significant curves on each side, which allow my thumb and pinky to comfortably slot in. I performed really well with this shape, as its curves let me have a really secure grip, which is something the Viper Mini has that so many other fingertip mice lack. Its tiny size also gave me a ton of fine control, more than I expected. My macro adjustments feel so much easier with this mouse compared to other small mice. However, I've spoken to a number of people who would find this mouse very uncomfortable to use, due to how much you have to bend your fingers to actually grip it. If you have bigger than 18 by 9 hands and any sort of stiffness in your fingers, I would be careful. Obviously people with large hands still enjoy fingertip mice, but it is something to be aware of. The M4 has no specific coating, nothing rubberized or similar, but unlike other cheap mice, the plastic is significantly textured and feels pretty good to hold. It's nothing particularly premium, but it's grippy enough, and as long as you don't have super sweaty hands, it'll feel fine. 35 grams is obviously not heavy, but because of how small this mouse is, it feels surprisingly dense. It's also not the lightest fingertip mouse on the market, that being the HSK Pro. But as far as I can tell, it is the lightest solid shell, beating the HSK Plus by 3 grams and $60. The M4 feels really solid in the hand. I can get it to flex slightly if I squeeze it with both hands like I'm strangling a ranked teammate, but under any reasonable amount of pressure, it's basically flawless. As far as I can tell, the primary clicks are Huano Blue Shell Pink Dots, and feel exactly like Huano Blue Shell Pink Dots. They're crisp, snappy, and spammable. I would prefer some sort of optical implementation due to mechanical switches degrading and all of the disadvantages that come with that, but as far as actual click feel goes, these feel great. So far, this review has been extremely positive, but this mouse has some issues that, while not a deal breaker for me, very well could be for others. My two biggest criticisms are the scroll wheel and the side buttons. The scroll wheel is recessed, which is fine but not ideal. However, its click is really stiff. I have repeatedly missed inputs while clicking on this mouse, and that's not a deal breaker, but it is very annoying, especially if you have it bound to something important. The side buttons, though, are just plain bad. The actual feel is okay, it's not particularly sharp or clicky, but it's serviceable. they are worse than my really used Viper Mini. However, their positioning, especially of the rear button, is just awful. The front button is usable, though I still had to adjust my grip a bit, but the rear button is effectively impossible to use without totally adjusting my grip and moving my thumb very high up, which totally undermines all of the positives I mentioned about the shape of the mouse. For me, the backside button is totally unusable in-game, and the front side button I wouldn't use for anything more important than pinging. This is fine for me in Valorant and Overwatch since I don't use these keys, but if you play something like Fortnite where side buttons are actually important, I would have to say to stay away from this mouse. As someone with small hands who fingertips, this mouse is amazing. Not only from a performance perspective, but from a value one as well. It's obviously a niche product, made even nicher by an honestly insane side button design, but it's going to be my new main for the foreseeable future. Now, on a side note, if anyone from Razer is listening to this, what the fuck is the Cobra Pro? I will fucking find you!